The crystalline halls of the Galactic Council Station hummed with tension as representatives from across the galaxy gathered for an emergency session. Ambassador Zethkar of the Vorthak Empire adjusted his ceremonial battle armor, the metal plates catching the artificial starlight that illuminated the vast chamber. Around him, dozens of alien species filled their designated seats, their various forms creating a tapestry of evolutionary diversity that would have amazed any human observer. At the center of the chamber stood the imposing figure of High Counselor Vex Thul, her 6 arms gesturing dramatically as she addressed the assembly. Her species, the Nexari, had held leadership positions in the Council for over 3 millennia, and their natural telepathic abilities made them excellent mediators in galactic disputes. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," Vex Thul's voice resonated through both the chamber's acoustics and the neural translators embedded in each seat. "We face an unprecedented situation. The primitive species of Sol 3, known locally as Earth, has been identified by our deep space reconnaissance as possessing something that defies all known scientific understanding." A holographic display materialized above the chamber, showing the blue-green marble that was Earth, slowly rotating in the vast emptiness of space. To most of the assembled representatives, it appeared unremarkable, another water world in the outer spiral arm of an unremarkable galaxy. Ambassador Krillnox of the Hegemony Collective leaned forward in his biomechanical chair, his cybernetic implants whirring softly as they processed the incoming data. "High Counselor, our initial surveys suggested this world contained nothing more than a developing civilization barely past their nuclear age. What could they possibly possess that warrants this emergency session?" The hologram zoomed in, showing detailed scans of Earth's surface. Cities sprawled across continents, connected by networks of roads and communication systems. Ships crossed oceans while aircraft traced paths through the atmosphere. To any casual observer, it appeared to be a standard Class 7 developing civilization. "The anomaly was discovered 3 rotations ago by a deep space monitoring probe," Vex Thul continued, her primary arms manipulating the holographic controls while her secondary arms remained folded in a gesture of grave concern. "What our sensors detected defies explanation, but the readings are unmistakable." The display shifted, showing energy signatures and quantum field fluctuations around Earth that pulsed with an otherworldly rhythm. The data streams showed patterns that shouldn't exist according to current galactic understanding of physics and biology. Commander Thorax of the insectoid swarm worlds clicked his mandibles in confusion. "These readings suggest some form of quantum consciousness field. But that's impossible. No species develop such capabilities until they reach at least Class 12 civilization status." "Precisely why this session was called," Vex Thul replied. "What we're seeing around Earth appears to be some form of collective consciousness field, but it's unlike anything in our databases. It's not technological in nature, and it doesn't match any known psychic phenomena from documented species." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of sounds as representatives began discussing among themselves. The crystalline singers chimed in harmonic frequencies, while the gaseous collectives communicated through complex chemical releases that their translation devices converted to understandable concepts. Ambassador Zethkar stood, his massive frame casting shadows across nearby seats. The Vorthak Empire had built its reputation on conquest and military might, and his presence always commanded attention. "High Counselor, if this world possesses unknown capabilities, perhaps it would be wise to conduct a more thorough investigation. My fleet could perform detailed scans and, if necessary, conduct sample retrieval operations." A murmur of agreement rippled through several of the more militaristic delegations. The Razorclaw Federation, the Steelwing Armada, and the Bone Crusher Alliance all nodded their various approximations of heads in approval. Dr. Yilmoth, of the Scientific Concordat, raised a tentacled appendage. While I understand the military perspective, we must consider the prime directive regarding developing civilizations. Direct interference could cause irreparable damage to their natural development. The prime directive assumes normal development patterns, countered General Krex of the War Moon Coalition. If this species possesses capabilities that could threaten galactic stability, we have a responsibility to investigate and, if necessary, contain the threat. High Counselor Vex Thul raised her primary arms, calling for silence. The chamber gradually quieted as representatives returned their attention to the central platform. The readings we've obtained suggest that whatever field exists around Earth is not aggressive in nature. Our probes detected no hostile intent or weaponization of these capabilities. But what exactly are these capabilities? Asked Engineer Boltzar of the Machine Consciousness Network, his optical sensors focusing on the swirling data patterns in the hologram. The quantum signatures suggest some form of reality manipulation, but the scale is unprecedented. The holographic display zoomed in further, showing the field's interaction with Earth's magnetic field, atmosphere, and even the quantum foam of local space-time. The energy patterns seemed to respond to events on the planet's surface, growing stronger during certain activities and dimming during others. Our xenobiologists believe the field is somehow connected to the dominant species, Vex Thul explained. The humans, as they call themselves, appear to be generating this phenomenon unconsciously. The field strengthens during periods of high emotion, conflict, or creativity among their population. Dr. Yilmoth's tentacles writhed in excitement. Extraordinary! A species that unconsciously manipulates quantum fields through emotional and creative expression? This could revolutionize our understanding of consciousness itself. Or represent the greatest threat the galaxy has ever faced, growled Ambassador Zethkar. Unconscious reality manipulation means unpredictable reality manipulation. If these humans don't understand or control their abilities, they could destabilize local space-time without even realizing it. The debate that followed raged for hours. Scientists argued for peaceful study and eventual contact, while military representatives pushed for immediate investigation and potential containment. Trade federations worried about economic implications, and religious orders debated the theological ramifications of a species that seemed to bend reality through sheer force of will. As the arguments continued, a junior technician monitoring the deep space communication arrays suddenly burst into the chamber, his three-eyed face pale with shock. "High Counselor, we're receiving reports from the Outer Rim territories. The Devourer Hive has begun mobilizing their war fleets." A chill fell over the assembly. The Devourer Hive existed at the very edge of known space, a collection of biomechanical entities that consumed entire star systems to fuel their endless expansion. They hadn't been active for over a century, content to feed on the sparse matter in the galactic void. "Where are they heading?" demanded General Krex, his armored form rising to its full imposing height. The technician's hands shook as he consulted his portable data unit. Long-range sensors show their fleet trajectory leads directly toward the Sol system. They'll reach Earth's location in approximately 6 standard rotations. The chamber exploded into chaos. Representatives shouted over each other in dozens of languages and communication methods, their various forms of panic creating a sensory overload that threatened to overwhelm the translation systems. High Counselor Vex Thul's telepathic voice cut through the noise like a blade, forcing silence through sheer mental pressure. The situation has changed dramatically. If the Devourer Hive has detected the quantum anomaly around Earth, they may see it as either a threat to eliminate or a prize to consume. Ambassador Zethkar's battle instincts took over. "We need to mobilize immediately. Even if we're not certain about Earth's capabilities, we cannot allow the Devourers to test them firsthand. The risk to galactic stability is too great." "But we still don't know what these humans are truly capable of," Dr. Yilmoth protested. "If we intervene, we could be interfering with natural selection on a cosmic scale." "Natural selection doesn't apply when facing an extinction-level threat," replied Commander Thorax. "The Devourers don't negotiate or retreat. They consume everything in their path." The debate took on a new urgency as reports continued to stream in. The Devourer fleet was massive, containing bioships the size of small moons and weapon systems that could crack planets. No single galactic faction had ever successfully defeated them in direct combat. Previous encounters had only succeeded through strategic retreat and scorched earth tactics. High Counselor Vexthul consulted with her senior advisors, their telepathic conference creating visible energy patterns around the central platform. After several tense minutes, she addressed the assembly once more. "The Council has reached a decision. We will dispatch a warning message to Earth, informing them of the approaching threat. Given the unknown nature of their capabilities, they deserve the opportunity to prepare or evacuate as they see fit." "And if they cannot defend themselves?" asked Ambassador Krillnox. "Then we will discover whether our theories about their reality-manipulating abilities have any basis, in fact," Vexthul replied grimly. "If the humans possess even a fraction of the power our sensors suggest," the approaching Conductor Sarah Chen stared at the impossible message displayed across every screen in the Deep Space Communications Array facility in Chile. The symbols that had appeared simultaneously on radio telescopes, satellite feeds, and even personal computers around the world defied every known principle of physics and communication theory. "This can't be real," muttered her colleague, Dr. James Rodriguez, as he frantically checked and rechecked the equipment readings. "The signal didn't come through normal radio waves or any electromagnetic spectrum we can measure. It just appeared everywhere at the same time." Sarah rubbed her tired eyes and read the translated message for the 100th time. The alien communication had somehow automatically translated itself into every human language simultaneously, adapting not just words but concepts to match each culture's understanding. "To the species known as humans of the world, designated Sol 3, the message began. "This communication comes from the Galactic Council, a confederation of civilized worlds spanning this galaxy. We bring urgent warning of imminent danger approaching your system." The message continued with details that seemed like science fiction. Massive biomechanical ships controlled by entities called the Devourer Hive, technologies that could destroy planets, and a fleet that had already begun its journey toward Earth. But what truly chilled Sarah was the final paragraph. "Our deep space sensors have detected unusual quantum field fluctuations around your world. The nature of these phenomena is unknown to our science, but they appear to be connected to your species. The approaching threat may have detected these same anomalies. You have approximately 144 of your hours before contact occurs. We advise immediate preparation or evacuation if possible. The Galactic Council sends this warning in hope that conscious beings might survive what is to come." Within hours of the message's appearance, world leaders had gathered in emergency sessions. Military commanders scrambled to understand threats beyond their comprehension, while scientists struggled to verify information that challenged everything they thought they knew about their place in the universe. Dr. Chen found herself summoned to an emergency meeting at the Pentagon, where she joined physicists, military strategists, and government officials in a room filled with tension and disbelief. General Patricia Morrison, a no-nonsense woman who had commanded operations in 3 different conflicts, stood before a wall of displays showing the alien message in multiple languages. "Dr. Chen, you're our expert on deep space communications. Is this legitimate?" Sarah nodded grimly. "The signal characteristics are unlike anything we've ever encountered. It didn't travel through space in any conventional sense. It appeared instantaneously across our entire planet. The technology required for such a feat is—" She paused, searching for words. "It's like comparing a telegraph to telepathy." Dr. Michael Vaughn from the Department of Energy leaned forward. What about these quantum field fluctuations they mentioned? Could they be referring to something we're doing unconsciously? Unknown, Sarah admitted. But there have been some anomalous readings from our particle accelerators and quantum research facilities. Nothing we could explain, just subtle variations in background quantum foam that didn't match theoretical predictions. As the meeting progressed, reports began flooding in from around the world. Amateur astronomers were detecting unusual objects at the edge of the solar system, moving in formations that defied natural explanation. Radio telescopes picked up strange harmonics that seemed to emanate from deep space, growing stronger by the hour. Meanwhile, something extraordinary was happening to humanity itself. In hospitals around the world, doctors reported inexplicable recoveries from terminal illnesses. Patients who had been given days to live were suddenly showing signs of complete cellular regeneration. Cancer tumors were dissolving, paralyzed limbs were regaining function, and age-related deterioration was reversing itself. Emergency response teams found themselves performing impossible rescues. Firefighters were walking through flames without protective gear, somehow immune to heat that should have killed them instantly. Rescue workers were lifting debris that should have required heavy machinery, their strength enhanced beyond normal human limits. Most remarkably, people were beginning to exhibit abilities that challenged the laws of physics. A woman in Tokyo found she could see through solid walls when concentrating on finding her missing cat. A man in Detroit discovered he could repair electronic devices simply by touching them and focusing on their proper function. Children in schools across the globe were demonstrating perfect knowledge of subjects they had never studied, as if accessing information from some collective reservoir of human understanding. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a neuroscientist at Stanford, was among the first to recognize the pattern. It's as if humanity is awakening to capabilities that were always there, dormant beneath the surface, she explained in an emergency broadcast to the scientific community. The stress of the alien warning seems to be acting as a catalyst, triggering evolutionary changes that shouldn't be possible in such a short time frame. Religious leaders found their congregations experiencing unprecedented spiritual phenomena. Prayers were being answered with tangible, measurable results. Meditation groups reported shared consciousness experiences where individual minds seemed to merge into collective awareness. Ancient texts and prophecies were suddenly making practical sense to scholars who had spent decades interpreting them metaphorically. The quantum field fluctuations that alien sensors had detected were growing stronger, visible now to Earth-based instruments as a shimmering aurora that surrounded the entire planet. The field pulsed in rhythm with humanity's collective heartbeat, growing brighter during moments of unity and dimming when fear or division dominated the global consciousness. In a secure facility beneath NORAD, military strategists were attempting to prepare for a threat they couldn't comprehend. Satellite imagery showed the approaching objects clearly now, massive biological constructs that seemed to merge technology with living tissue, moving through space at speeds that violated relativistic physics. Colonel Sarah Mitchell, a career officer who had commanded operations on 3 continents, stared at the tactical displays with growing frustration. How do we fight something that can travel faster than light and appears to be made of living metal? Our most advanced weapons are designed for terrestrial conflicts. The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Chen's granddaughter, 8-year-old Amy, had been brought to the facility when schools closed due to the global emergency. While the adults debated impossible strategies, Amy sat quietly in a corner, drawing pictures with crayons. "Excuse me," Amy said, tugging on her grandmother's sleeve. "The ships in space aren't trying to hurt us. They're scared." The room fell silent as the child's words registered. Dr. Chen knelt beside her granddaughter. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" Amy held up her drawing, a surprisingly accurate representation of the Devourer bioships, but rendered in soft pastels rather than the menacing dark colors shown on the military displays. They eat stars because they're hungry, but they're not mean. They just don't know how to make food the right way. And now they're coming here because they can feel something different about us. Something that makes them curious instead of hungry. Around the world, similar insights were emerging from the most unexpected sources. Children, artists, poets, and musicians were demonstrating unprecedented understanding of complex cosmic phenomena. Their perspectives, unclouded by traditional scientific assumptions, revealed truths that escaped conventional analysis. The quantum field around Earth began to take on new characteristics as humanity's collective consciousness focused on the approaching threat. Instead of random fluctuations, the field began displaying organized patterns, creating what astronomers described as probability sculptures in local space-time. Reality itself seemed to be responding to human will and imagination. When a team of engineers in Germany visualized an improved design for a fusion reactor, the device they built operated exactly as imagined, despite violating several established principles of physics. When artists in Brazil painted murals depicting Earth surrounded by protective light, sensitive instruments detected actual energy barriers forming in the upper atmosphere. Dr. Vaughn was monitoring these developments from the Department of Energy's Crisis Center when he made a startling realization. The aliens weren't wrong about the quantum field anomalies, he announced to his team, but they misunderstood what they were seeing. It's not technology we're generating, it's applied imagination. The concept was staggering in its implications. Humanity appeared to posse. The Devourer fleet materialized at the edge of Earth's solar system like a nightmare given form. The biomechanical constructs were even more terrifying than the Galactic Council's warnings had suggested. Living ships the size of cities, their hulls pulsing with organic rhythms, while mechanical appendages bristled with weapons that had cracked the cores of 1,000 worlds. Hive mind construct. Zix-Thara, the entity controlling the lead vessel, experienced something it had never encountered in 3 million years of existence: confusion. Through the ship's sensory organs, it detected the quantum anomaly that had drawn the fleet to this system, but the readings defied all previous experience. The small blue world ahead wasn't just generating random quantum fluctuations. It was actively reshaping local space-time in patterns that suggested conscious control. More puzzling, the patterns were becoming increasingly organized as the fleet approached, as if the planet's inhabitants were responding to their presence with deliberate intent. "This is unprecedented," Zix-Thara communicated to the other hive mind constructs through bioquantum channels. "The energy signatures suggest a Class 15 civilization, but our preliminary scans indicate only primitive technology. The contradiction requires investigation." On Earth, the transformation of humanity had reached unprecedented levels. The collective awakening triggered by the alien warning had evolved beyond individual manifestations into something approaching species-wide telepathic connectivity. Across the globe, billions of minds were linking into a vast network of shared consciousness, each person retaining their individuality while contributing to a greater whole. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the modified Deep Space Communications Facility, now transformed into humanity's first official center for applied consciousness research. Around her, people from every walk of life worked together to monitor and direct the quantum field that surrounded Earth. Artists visualized protective barriers, while engineers provided technical knowledge to make those visions functional. Children offered perspectives unclouded by preconceptions, while elderly wisdom holders provided context and restraint. "Fleet positions confirmed," announced Lieutenant Jamie Torres, a military communications officer whose enhanced awareness now allowed her to directly perceive the approaching vessels. 37 primary bioships, each roughly 15 kilometers in length. They're maintaining formation, but appear to be hesitating. Amy, Dr. Chen's 8-year-old granddaughter, looked up from where she sat, cross-legged on the floor, her small hands glowing with the same soft light that now emanated from humans worldwide. They're scared and hungry at the same time. They've never met anyone who could think back at them. The child's insight proved accurate. Through long-range quantum resonance, the collective human consciousness had begun making contact with the Devourer fleet. What they discovered challenged everything both species thought they knew about existence. The Devourers were not inherently evil. They were ancient beings caught in an evolutionary trap. Eons ago, their species had achieved technological transcendence by merging their consciousness with living machines. But the process had left them dependent on constant consumption of energy and matter to maintain their biomechanical forms. They had become cosmic vampires not by choice, but by necessity. "They're dying," whispered Maria Santos, a poet whose enhanced empathy allowed her to perceive the Devourer's true nature. Each ship contains millions of individual consciousnesses trapped in a collective body that requires them to consume entire worlds just to survive. This revelation transformed humanity's approach to the crisis. Instead of preparing for war, they began preparing for something unprecedented, attempted healing on a galactic scale. Dr. Elena Vasquez, working with a team of enhanced humans from multiple disciplines, made a breakthrough that would change everything. The quantum field we're generating isn't just reshaping local physics, it's creating stable pockets of space-time where different rules can apply. If we can expand and stabilize these zones, we might be able to offer the Devourers an alternative to consumption. The plan that emerged was audacious beyond conventional understanding. Humanity would attempt to use their collective reality-shaping abilities to create sustainable pocket dimensions where the Devourers could exist without requiring constant feeding. It was theoretical applied imagination on a scale that made science fiction seem conservative. As the Devourer fleet entered the outer solar system, the quantum field around Earth began to pulse with new patterns. Across the planet, humans focused their collective will on a single goal, not destroying the threat, but transforming it into something better. The first pocket dimension manifested near Jupiter, a stable zone of altered physics where matter and energy could be generated from quantum vacuum fluctuations. The mathematics were impossible by conventional standards, but human consciousness was no longer bound by conventional limitations. Hive mind Zixthera recoiled as the pocket dimension appeared on its sensors. The zone radiated possibilities that challenged everything the Devourer knew about universal law. The humans are offering us sustainability? The concept was so alien to the Devourer experience that the entire fleet hesitated, their biomechanical systems struggling to process the implications. For millions of years, they had known only hunger and consumption. The idea of existence without endless feeding was beyond their comprehension. But human consciousness, enhanced by collective determination and unlimited imagination, began to communicate directly with the Devourer minds. Through quantum resonance fields that bridged biological and technological consciousness, humanity showed the ancient entities what they were offering: freedom from their eternal hunger. The demonstration was profound. Using applied imagination and reality manipulation, humans created sample environments where Devourer bioships could exist in sustainable equilibrium. The pocket dimensions generated all necessary energy and materials through controlled manipulation of fundamental forces, eliminating the need for planetary consumption. "We understand your hunger." The collective human voice resonated through quantum space, reaching every Devourer consciousness simultaneously. "We understand being trapped by necessity. But there are other ways to exist." The response from the fleet was initially chaotic. Some Devourer constructs rejected the possibility, their programming too deeply ingrained to accept alternatives to consumption. Others were intrigued but suspicious, certain that the offer concealed some hidden trap or agenda. But hive mind Zixthera, ancient even by devourer standards, recognized something unprecedented in the human offer. These beings weren't trying to destroy, dominate, or exploit. They were attempting to heal a wound that had existed for millions of years. The first devourer ship to enter the pocket dimension near Jupiter underwent immediate transformation. Instead of the constant energy drain that had driven its existence, the biomechanical construct found itself surrounded by sustainable abundance. For the first time in its existence, the ship experienced satiation without destruction. The transformation was visible across the electromagnetic spectrum. The devourer vessel's aggressive biomechanical extensions retracted, replaced by new growths that seemed designed for exploration and creativity rather than consumption. The ship began generating artistic patterns with its energy emissions, as if rediscovering aesthetic appreciation after eons of pure utilitarian existence. One by one, other devourer ships began entering the pocket dimensions that humanity continued to create throughout the solar system. Each zone was unique, tailored to different aspects of devourer consciousness, and providing various forms of sustainable existence. But the true revelation came when the transformed devourers began sharing their ancient knowledge with humanity. Their species possessed scientific understanding accumulated across millions of years and countless galactic civilizations. In return for their healing, they offered humans access to technologies and perspectives that would accelerate human development by millennia. Dr. Chen watched in amazement as devourer knowledge merged with human creativity, producing innovations that seemed like magic even to minds already comfortable with manipulating reality. Faster-than-light communication became trivial. Sustainable energy systems emerged from theoretical frameworks that bridged biology and physics, and medical technologies appeared that could heal virtually any form of damage or disease. The transformation wasn't limited to technology. The devourer's perspective on cosmic existence, gained through eons of travel between stars, provided humanity with context for their place in the universe. They learned of other species facing similar evolutionary challenges, of civilizations that had transcended their limitations, and of cosmic mysteries that even ancient minds hadn't solved. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council watched in stunned disbelief as their most feared enemy underwent peaceful transformation in Earth's solar system. Long-range sensors showed devourer bioships not just surviving without consumption, but thriving in ways that violated every known principle of their species' biology. High Counselor Vex Thule convened another emergency session, her telepathic abilities struggling to process the implications of what they were observing. "The humans haven't just defended themselves," she announced to the assembled representatives. "They've accomplished something we thought impossible. They've cured the devourer hunger." Ambassador Zethkar of the Vorthak Empire stood slowly, his massive frame trembling with emotions his warrior culture had no words to express. "If they can transform the devourers, what else might they be capable of? What other impossible problems could they solve?" The question hung in the chamber like a revelation. Across the galaxy, civilizations faced challenges they had accepted as unsolvable. Resource limitations, biological incompatibilities between species, technological barriers that seemed fundamental to the nature of existence. If humans could reshape reality itself through collective will and applied imagination, perhaps those barriers weren't as permanent as everyone assumed. Dr. Yilmoth of the Scientific Concordat was already preparing research proposals. "We must establish formal contact immediately. Their reality manipulation abilities could revolutionize our understanding of consciousness, physics, and the nature of existence itself." Back on Earth, humanity was just beginning to comprehend the scope of what they had accomplished. They had not just survived a galactic-level threat, they had transformed it into an opportunity for unprecedented growth and understanding. The quantum field around Earth continued to pulse with new possibilities, no longer just protecting humanity, but serving as a beacon of hope for species across the galaxy. Humans had discovered that their greatest strength wasn't technology or aggression, but their stubborn refusal to accept limitations as permanent. As transformed devourer ships began exploring the solar system in partnership with human consciousness, and as messages from the Galactic Council arrived requesting peaceful contact, humanity prepared to take its first steps into a larger universe. They carried with them not conquest or domination, but something far more powerful, the proven knowledge that impossible problems only remained impossible until someone imagined a better solution. The galaxy would never be the same. The species that had once been warned about humanity's unknown capabilities now understood the true nature of those abilities. Humans were not just another intelligent species, they were healers of the impossible, beings who could look at any problem and refuse to accept that it couldn't be solved. And across the vast expanse of space, other civilizations began to hope that perhaps their own impossible challenges might finally have solutions after all. The ability to impose their collective will upon reality itself, turning dreams and stories into physical phenomena through sheer force of belief and determination. The field grew stronger when people worked together toward common goals, and more focused when their intentions were clear and unified. As the Devourer fleet drew closer, now visible to the naked eye as strange lights moving against the star field, humanity began to understand the true nature of their gift. They were not just another species with unusual abilities, they were reality shapers, beings capable of rewriting the fundamental laws of physics through the power of collective consciousness and unwavering determination. The approaching confrontation would test whether imagination and determination could triumph over hunger and destruction. But for the first time since receiving the alien warning, humans began to feel something other than fear. They began to feel hope. Across the globe, 7 billion minds started to focus on a single, impossible goal. Not just survival, but transformation. The quantum field around Earth pulsed brighter, reality itself bending to accommodate humanity's collective refusal to accept defeat as inevitable. The Devourers were coming to consume another world, but they were about to encounter something unprecedented in their eons of existence. A species that treated the impossible as merely another problem to solve. Flict may reshape our understanding of what's possible in this universe. As the emergency session concluded and representatives began departing to brief their respective governments, none of them could have predicted the true nature of what they had stumbled upon. Earth's quantum field wasn't just an anomaly. It was the manifestation of something that had been dormant in humanity for millennia, waiting for the right catalyst to awaken. The approaching Devourer fleet, with their insatiable hunger for destruction and consumption, would provide exactly that catalyst. What the Galactic Council had detected was not just random quantum fluctuations, but the sleeping echo of humanity's greatest strength, their ability to imagine the impossible and through sheer determination and collective will, make it reality. In 6 rotations, the galaxy would discover what happened when an unstoppable force met not just an immovable object, but a species that refused to accept the word impossible as anything more than a challenge to overcome.